manufacturing. And all day we've heard about policy, and we've heard about renewables, and we've heard about sustainability and circularity and everything else. And of course we all know that none of that happens without manufacturing. And the other difference that we're going to get here today is that we have got fantastic company partners, including 2 women CEOs, and we're very, very, very privileged to have all of my guests here. But we're going to start with a bit of a frame from our EC colleagues. Nicholas, if you wouldn't mind stepping up to the podium or speaking where you're sitting, whichever is good for you, my friend. There's the zapper, and give us some context about Made in Europe and what we can see from the Commission side. Round of applause, please. Nicholas doesn't leave Brussels very often, so it's lovely to see him here. There he is. You're in Spain, my friend. Okay, good.
I'll see whether you upload afterwards.
Off with you.
So thank you, Andrew. I'm going to say a few words of how and why we are supporting manufacturing, research and innovation, and what we are learning from it. And, a few figures first. I'll start with a boring bit. And also, why do we support manufacturing? Now, to say that manufacturing is important economically is commonplace, so I'm not going to say that. Our current line is that we are helping manufacturing industry become green and more digital. That is a current storyline, of course, more resilient. Of course, all these things were happening before. Yes. So I'm not going to give you many numbers, you'll be pleased to know, but the key number is that from 2014, which was the start of Horizon 2020, and the Factories of the Future partnership under Horizon 2020, and up to and including this year, we have dedicated just over a good 1.5 billion euros on manufacturing R&I. In Factories of the Future and Made in Europe projects. So that includes the last projects that have been about to be selected this year. Total of 60 topics and 257 projects. And that is only Factories of the Future and Made in Europe. There are, of course, there is other relevant support elsewhere. I'm not going to go over over all those pie charts. You'll be very pleased to know. But the main message is that even though Made in Europe is sector agnostic, we fund manufacturing R&I in all sectors. In practice, what we see is that the support goes to lots of different sectors, with about 2/3 going to machinery, automotive, electronics, and aerospace, the first 4 there. Slide. Yes. Now, apart from counting the money, we are also asking ourselves what the projects are telling us. In our own research, what some of the questions we are asking ourselves and the projects are all those demonstrators that you saw in the pie charts supporting, for example, the circular economy in EU manufacturing? Are the demonstrators supporting the human side? We heard a lot about skills and humans in earlier sessions. So these are two of the key questions we are asking ourselves, and when we interview projects. Some of our findings so far are that the first few I've mentioned already, the breadth of the funding, how it goes to different sectors. Very interesting point is that on top of what we fund in Made in Europe, the European Research Council is funding a lot of interesting projects in manufacturing. And of course, we seek to connect those to the mainstream projects. A lot of SMEs are laggards. You've heard that in other sessions, not only with regard to digitization, but with regard to all manufacturing technologies. But the ones who do participate in the projects find themselves in general in a very good position. So the question, of course, is how to generalize this. For circularity, we have lots of interesting technologies, lots of projects telling you we reduced waste by 20% or whatever, but overall we are not there yet. That's a simple message. I won't go into details. And for some projects, exploitation might need better guidance and, more broadly speaking, the dissemination I mentioned earlier. Now the trends, I've organized the trends in this slide according to the objectives, the key objectives of Made in Europe, but in fact they span the whole of manufacturing. In excellence, that is new technologies for manufacturing, we need more research on things like what we call 0x manufacturing, zero defect, zero waste. Stronger synergies with what is happening at the lower technology readiness levels, so that we keep the pipeline of knowledge going. Circularity, here data and connecting the technologies and the factories and remanufacturing are the challenges. Services, how to make the most of the manufacturing assets we already have, including through digitization, of course, and data spaces. And finally, human centricity, how people work with machines, how they can learn to use the new technologies. Again, we heard about that in other sessions. And
keep going, Nicholas. You only have 5 minutes.
And finally, this is simply a QR code where you can look at our more general work on how we fund, how we support the human-centric side through what we call Industry 5.0. Thank you.
Nicholas, thank you very much for that. A round of applause. Thank you, Nicholas. You mentioned a couple of times manufacturing is everywhere, and I think this is part of the challenge when we try and look at policy and funding and so on. But I guess Made in Europe is an important pillar within your world. Is that something that's coherent, do you think, from a Commission perspective? Is it a proper consigned pillar in your mind?
Well, yes and no. Of course, there is indirect support for manufacturing everywhere. I would not say that it's entirely coherent, no. Of course, this happens to many other priorities that they have to find their place in many different programs. So manufacturing is not unique in that way. So it is partly our job to point people to opportunities elsewhere, not only in Made in Europe, but also in energy or mobility. But there are such opportunities.
Super. Thank you very much. Very informative. Do we have manufacturing SMEs in the audience? Anybody from a manufacturing SME? Anyone at all? Who are you people? Why are you in this room? All right, very good. I'm delighted to hear it. Estella, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium and starting off for us. We've got one of these SME laggards with us here, so I'm sure that's not the case in this case. But if you could, Estella, tell us a little bit about your company and give us a perspective, please.
Okay.
Thank you. There's your...
Good afternoon. I want to thank the organization for inviting me. Okay. Ecomol is a family company that provides industrial solutions in the world of injection molding, founded in 1979. Molds are necessary tool to be able to create any product that is manufactured in significant quantities. Toothbrushes, chairs, medical device, cosmetic containers, automotive parts, or any of products that are around them. We are a small company in the metal manufacturing sector with 35 employees. Since 2020, we are a new facilities with 4,000 square meters. One of our main concerns was being able to contribute to sustainability and circularity. Beyond recycling oils or metal remains from the production process, we wanted to go one step further. From the involvement of our fellow employees, the idea of Ecomol was born. In this project, we offer several services around the sustainability and circularity of the mold and the manufactured parts. The more basic, I will disassemble it for you. It is a way to limit expenses and also a way to reduce the use of resources by promoting the second life of the components. Another service in Ecomol is eco-design. We find molds that were once manufactured for a type of plastic, and now the same piece is desired but with a more sustainable plastic. It is possible to redesign the mold and make modifications so that it can inject biodegradable or biocompostable plastic. In this case, we have the support of Eurecat, a state-of-art technology center in Catalonia, working closely with their materials department, where research is carried out on the properties and behavior of different plastic materials. As you can see, we are involved and concerned about improving sustainability and circularity, and our impact on society so close to the industrial point of view. But I would like to share several observations, because I would like to make you think about that. There needs to be greater coordination between legislation and industrial companies because, unintentionally, greenwashing situations are being generated due to the lack of technical experts. On one hand, small companies generally have a very limited investment capacity in research, development, and innovation. On the other hand, we have a great advantage. We offer reactivity and flexibility, and above all, a global vision of a process. A very graphic example of the disconnection between departments of one big company or the same value chain and of making up absurd decisions is the case of water bottles or single-use containers. There has been a strong campaign that water bottles pollute seas. For reflection, the microplastics that reach the sea, 35% come from detergents used in washing clothes. Another 35% come from raw paints and tires, while plastic packaging only represents 5%. Second reflection, are bottles the problem or is people actions? The law requires that plastic bottles contain recycled plastic. Recycled plastic doesn't have the same properties as virgin plastic. Bottles that previously weighed 20 grams of virgin plastic now weigh 30 grams of recycled plastic. For this process, more plastic, more water, and more electricity are consumed. This is more sustainable? The problem comes when, in the large company, the marketing department asks production to apply the law without having real knowledge of what they are asking for or environmental repercussions. There are more examples of the incoherence of the application of certain legislations, especially when the regulation is based on punishing and not on incentive because whoever legislates has not had the opportunity to see what the real factory is like and the productive means needed. For example, the regulation that is applied in thermal treatments. Alternative treatments that are less toxic to human health have been developed. It is a great advance. But the new treatments still don't give the same properties and the hardness anti-friction as the old treatments. For these reasons, companies go to countries where there are not restrictions to use the process. What do we? Shut down and penalize in European industry and encourage bad decisions outside Europe. In short, we are all interested in producing in a more sustainable and environmental friendly way. But if everyone attacks the problem from their own point of view, the outcome is still not what was desired. It is advisable to approach the problem with a holistic and global vision, and then apply concrete solutions locally, and in them incorporate all the necessary actors, including industrial ones. Thank you.
Well done, Estella. Well done. Thank you very much. You can get set up. Estella, I note that thank you for that, by the way, and I guess just by way of explanation, we have 3 industrial partners that are speaking to us today, and I think it's a very important voice, and I know in any of our associations and so on, that voice of industry is incredibly important. And to hear you speak with such passion about the difference between the reality as you see it and aspirations and policy and so on is good, and we'll get back to a proper discussion. But as a first question, have you been to an event like this before?
Yes.
And how are you finding this particular event?
Yes?
Yeah.
I think it's important a global point of view and go the same way all together, and we can. I think we can, but it's important go on. To
go together. Okay,
yes,
lovely sentiment. Thank you very much. I think that's part of what we're talking about here. Sorry, Blanca, if you can climb up on the podium, my dear, please, and introduce yourself and give us a perspective again from your side on the industry.
Sure. So now Can you hear me? Now it's working? Yeah,
There
now
you
it's working. So, good afternoon. My name is Blanca Garro. I'm the CEO of Reinforce 3D, a startup company found a year ago, beginning of 2022, by my colleague, CTO and inventor of the technology Marc Crescenti, together with Fundació Eurecat and the deep tech venture capital Viable. But what do we do at Reinforce 3D? Well, we further develop and commercialize CFIP technology, continuous fiber injection process. This is an actual post-process technology. We are not a 3D printing technology, it's a post-process technology. And what we do is we drastically improve the mechanical performance of 3D printed parts by injecting them with continuous fibers, like carbon fibers, together with a resin as a lubricant. And what we get is, improving the mechanical and lightweight performance of 3D printed parts. But the point is that we cannot also use our technologies to improve the mechanical properties of a 3D printed part. We can also use it as a joining technology. So we can use it to join different components, as you can see now in the picture, and they don't need to be 3D printed. They can be different materials, and we can then integrally join with continuous fiber from end to end. It's true that we can use our technology with many traditional manufacturing technologies, but it's with additive manufacturing when we get the best out of it. And just to make the long story short, I will tell you the solution. With our technology, we are solving many of the barriers that refer to additive manufacturing in the industrial world. Like, for example, large structures. Everybody complains that we have restricted size dimensions. Well, now with our technology, we can have bigger parts by joining them. Or we can improve mechanical performance. Why? Because usually in additive manufacturing, you have to go directly to printing in metal or with high polymers, which are so expensive. Well, in this case, with our technology, we can reinforce any material from polymer, metal, even ceramics. And also the fact that we have good mechanical properties, we can go into lightweighting. This is our main objective every time that we are working in a project. And also the fact, and don't forgetting the composite sector, like for example, how to place fibers in complex trajectories. Nowadays, that's something that is made manually, fiber by fiber, with somebody pushing it. Now we can automate that process. With our solution, what I would like to mention is we are solving barriers. So we make business cases for the industry technologically and economically viable. So now additive manufacturing is an actual technology that we can use in the sector. And now coming into the topic of today, when we came with the topic, it's like how we bring innovation into manufacturing in Europe. I thought about all the customers that we are working with and all the context and all the challenges that they are facing. And here I can mention, for example, the increasing of complexity in product. And here, Stella can tell you many things about it. For example, like nothing is just mechanical anymore. Everything is mechatronic. All is software related or have sensors on it. And how we produce it, how we manufacture it, that's a challenge. But even more when we have the pressure of keeping the cost and schedule. Well, in this case, additive manufacturing and many other technologies like artificial intelligence are tools that we can use to solve those challenges. Another one is sustainability, and not just from using more eco-friendly materials. And here we are working together with Eurecat to develop new combinations, like for example, biosource resins and how we reinforce with natural fibers. But I think we should take it from the point of view of how to do more with less, how we produce more using less energy, how we travel faster using less fuel, the resources are limited, and we need to use them properly. And here, lightweighting, like for example in aerospace or automotive sector, is a key. Another one is electrification. We know that electrification is, for example, a solution to the zero net pollution. Yes, but here electrification for normal manufactured companies it could be a massive opportunity and a formidable threat. Why? Because this is like if you have been playing football or your life and you're quite good at it, and suddenly somebody comes and say, "Hey, football is over. Now we're gonna play chess," and it's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! What are we gonna do?" And actually, the point is that, yeah, you can take this challenge and realize that, for example, nowadays digitalization is a must to keep on the game, and they realize that they have to digitalize all the process or the value chain from design to manufacture to how they do their service. And here is just all the companies that are using additive manufacturing, for example, but also using new materials like composites, or start to think about the big data and cybersecurity. All of them that are thinking about it are the ones that will be survive. And the last one, not the least, and this is something that I take quite personally, is the war of talent. Why? Because demographic is against us, that's a fact, but also how we attract and retain the talent. And here is a challenge that I don't know if I mentioned, but we're placed in Amposta, which is a small city in Tarragona. And when I was in this position, was like, okay, how am I gonna do it to attract good engineers to come and work in my company? Well, it happens that when we start looking for people, we realize that young engineers say, "Whoa, you're an innovative company in the middle of the nature." I really like, because there happens to be many good engineers around the region and many people that want to come to work for an innovative company in a really nice place, not a big city where they have all the issues with renting and so on. So now I don't need to convince the engineers, I need to convince the government to invest in those regions so I can keep the talent in that area. Okay, and now I come to the fact. Okay, basically embrace new technologies, because the future is here and the problems are here, but we have already the tools to do it, and those are the new technologies. And this is not just a claim for the users, it's also for the governments, because in order to use new technologies, we need ISOs, we need certification, we need standards, and that's where all of you come into place. Okay, so thank you very much.
Superb.
Andrew.
Well done, you did. Well done, Blanca. Thank you. I think it's, like I said, we've got a nice spread of companies. You're a startup, Blanca. I mean,
I am. The passion.
no, the passion is there. I love the passion. I think it's fantastic. Dealing with real companies is a pleasure and a privilege. But really, I mean, are you connected at all to something Nicholas is saying? Is the Commission's message in any way permeating down to you in the real world, or is it too esoteric, or have you seen something today that changes your mind, or what's your perspective in a general sense?
I think it's a common thought. Sorry, can you now?
There we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I think it's a now?
Yeah,
now. I think it's a common thought that here in these sessions we are talking a lot about all the concepts in general, but how to bring them into the daily basics activity of a company. Like, for example, retain the talent. Or in my case, I'm a startup. I need funding. I need to participate in projects. I need people to know new technology. And I need companies to implement new technologies. And for that, many times they need a push, economically push, let's say. Something that they don't feel that they have they are taking all the risk in order to go for it.
So funding to de-risk that initial step.
For sure.
Okay, and I hear this from Nicholas all the time. Excellent. Thank you very much, Blanca. I really enjoyed that. It was great. Now, the best dressed man in this room. He's not quite as pretty as I am. We've discussed this earlier on, but a superb addition. A superb addition to this. Bart, if you could introduce yourself and your company from here or from your seat, whatever is comfortable for you.
Oh, yeah.
And
I'll
five
do
minutes
it from here.
Good man. Thank you.
Some numbers, and I won't read them out loud because I'm one of those people that hate when people read out their slides, but you can see the company logo Signify, but maybe to the right-hand side, it gives a little bit away where the company came from. So it's a conglomerate group with the headquarters in the Netherlands. Myself, I represent actually the brand that is in the most bottom right corner. We operate under Philips My Creation. The reason we do that is for market recognition. because lighting and Philips still goes together really well for consumers and professionals. And you can see some of our company's ambitions, and if you have read them all, you can see they're not small. Any one of you can easily go online, www.signify.com, and read all about the Brighter Lives, Better Worlds initiatives, where we are on our sustainable and circular journey. Now, I wasn't here to promote the entire group. As I told you, I'm a small part, a startup within the organization that uses additive manufacturing to create that. We're creating downlights, we are creating retail track lighting, so professional lighting that you will find in retail, hospitality, offices, and we create those as well for consumers. Now, how do we do that? We do that with 3D printers, but with a 100% ambition to become truly circular. We work with polycarbonates. It wasn't an easy choice to use polycarbonate because it's actually one of the more difficult plastics to print with. But of course, it has an enormous qualitative and cyclical advantage by using it. That cyclical you can see there. Our ambition is not small, and I can already tell you the numbers are, thank God, not that small neither. We've already sold 1.6 million luminaires individually. Out of that, 1.2 stayed in Europe. And those that are really interested, that's where they're made. Our research and headquarter in the Netherlands, as mentioned. We also have our consumer plant in Belgium and our professional plant in Hungary. And that's where roughly those 1.2 million luminaires came out of. You can imagine they have everything. Disassemble instructions. They no longer use screws, because with 3D printing parts you can make them far more intelligent, not just to mount but also to disassemble. You can do pretty much anything that your customer wants, which is also a great advantage. You can create on the fly whatever you need. We just heard the molds that are created also pose a problem. While with 3D printers you eliminate the vast amount of molds that you required. So reliance on cheap manufacturing overseas, because molds are always more interesting to get there, is no longer the case. We can do it in our backyard, and we do it, that I want to mention particularly and underline, we do it specifically in the Netherlands and Belgium because that's difficult. It's difficult from a legislation point of view. It's difficult to get talent. It's very expensive to have employees. And that's why we do it. Because if we can make it there, we can make it everywhere. Now, the whole idea was not to promote what we've done so far. We have problems. We struggle. And I, for one, hope by being here and getting to know some of you, connecting hopefully with more, that I can find some solutions. One of the major items is the waste stream optimization. If we want to become truly circular, we need a far more easier legislation that once we deliver to our customers, we can also take it back. Right now, the European regulation isn't that easy, depending on which country to which, but it's a hassle. It should be hassle-free as a truly circular company that we can deliver to our client with the promise that we will take back end of life the product and actually reprint that product into a new one. Lower volume. Right now, anything and everything that has been set up in plastic is huge. Every single time we step through the door, we're way too small. 50 tons, 100 tons for the companies that are there today treating waste is nothing. We really need a small and medium-sized setup for plastic treatment, plastic recyclement in Europe. And of course, we need the people around it that are trained in it, that innovate on it. All the projects can definitely come together. Printer platforms is my second point. It's sad to say, but the vast majority of our printers that we have today, we have bought them out of Europe. China is emerging really fast with incredible good equipment. USA is also following, or first led, now is following. Europe is really limping behind. we can innovate much stronger on the printer platforms because it's going fast. We're literally now in the realms, as you all remember, like you had your printer and your television. As soon as you bought it, it was already old. The same applies now for 3D printers. The evolution is so fast, time is not to be wasted. And if Europe, together with us as manufacturers, want to do something, we will need to be very fast. I'll skip to my last slide. Legislation, certification. It's a mix and match. Some of it is really coming together, I must say. ISCC is really pan-European more and more, but there is more that can be done. We made an assessment, and right now, for a luminaire solution as ourselves, 3D printed, very sustainable, 65% recycled content, wanting to be truly circular end of life, we are confronted with an option of no less than 180 different certifications. And we have no idea which one to choose, and nor does the consumer, nor does the professional. There is a vast opportunity for us as a community to come together and make sure that there is a more uniform, more clear, understandable, professional and consumer alike certification so that people can identify those more sustainable products, those products that actually have a circularity potential. And then last but not least, it's awareness. I've been made aware that my time is up. I hope we can make everyone aware that we are already capable of doing a lot better, that we should connect all those initiatives, that we should communicate about everything that we do, and that's the whole reason I'm here. And I hope to meet some of you that might feel that they can contribute or help me out with some of the issues that I mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Bart. Bart, very quickly, you're buying machines in China. You know, you're here as part of the European community. Philips is one of the major successes that we have on this continent. What can we do differently to persuade you to buy European machines?
We can do what most people do, learn very fast from those platforms. They are not that complex. I, for one, know, because most of the machines that we have, we do adopt them to our needs industrial. So we have that knowledge, and it's just about bringing those individual components, because a machine is a frame, it's a few engines, it's a few optics. That knowledge is there. Bringing those companies together and creating a platform where additive manufacturing is stimulated to really become an industrial footprint in Europe will certainly fuel that, and we have what it takes. It just needs to come together.
Thank you. We'll come back to that. Rika, if you wouldn't mind, I guess we've come through the industrial partners now. We've seen an industrial perspective and in real life, which I love. And Rika, you're with VTT and of course on the board of EFRA, European Factories Future Research Association. Maybe give us a little bit of where you're coming from, I know, yes, where you're coming from, and reflect if you can on some of what you've heard here to just to pull us together a small bit, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm a bit coming back to what was the first speaker, Nicolas, already discussing. So yes, I'm Rika Virkkonen, coming from VTT, which is the Technical Research Center in Finland, but here also representing EFRA and Made in Europe Partnership. So, I mean, oops, this is something that's getting fast. So yes, I mean, probably many of you know about EFRA, so it's the European Factories of the Future Research Association, so the private side of the Made in Europe partnership. So together with the Commission and Member States, so the Made in Europe partnership is designed, and EFRA, of course, is very important as a private side to define together with the others the goals of the partnerships and the call text, and also monitoring and supporting the actual doings within the partnerships. So if we think about the Made in Europe partnership and where it and how it has been designed, what are the strategies, this is a really busy slide, so don't try to read it, but just to explain. So on the left-hand side, you see sort of the starting point of where and why we invest, and the Commission invest and our money to this partnership. is really to keep on going with this manufacturing competitiveness, which we heard very much here, that is important, but people always say it's still important. But I think it's important and it's growingly important, so it is important and it will be important. It's not still important. So that's one of the starting points, of course, because only the successful companies actually matter. Then, of course, I mean, the partnership is replying to and supporting the European Green Deal. So, I mean, manufacturing is not only important because it itself has to be green, but it's also enabling the greenness through the product. So that is actually even much more important that we have manufacturing to manufacture the new kinds of products we need. And then, of course, we all know that manufacturing is spread all over Europe. It's very important for the different regions in Europe and for the jobs and so on. And then the digitalization as an enabler. So that's the starting point. But now if we go to the other side, so sort of to the right-hand side, so there's lots of new things coming up. So we are talking a lot, of course, of the economic security now. We're talking about resilience since couple of years, of course, very much due to COVID, due to a war, and now increasingly about the net zero industries. Now we talk more about lack of skilled workforce, maybe not only like offering beautiful jobs for people, but to find people to do the jobs. And then Industry 5.0, as Nicolas was representing. And if we really drill down to these, we actually come very much back to the same sort of key objectives, key technologies, key enablers that we actually list in the middle. So it's not that different. We just look at it from the different perspective, and maybe we need to speed up some things. But in a way, we have a really, really excellent starting point here. A lot of things have been done, and you can also go to the EFRA portal and see these solutions that have been done during these already existing projects and initiatives. So now I jump to something different. So this is a Finnish example. I brought this up, and I have some couple of reasons for that. First of all, this is an initiative that is focusing on manufacturing. So it's an open, smart manufacturing ecosystem. We call it OSME. It is led by Wärtsilä, which is a leading solution provider for energy and maritime sector. So it's actually doing what is needed, for example, in the Net Zero Industry Act. They really want to help their customers to become decarbonized and go to 100% renewable fuels and so on. So this ecosystem is actually doing things that we saw on the previous slide. It also has its roots in the region called Vaasa region, the city, and the region above. It's a very entrepreneurial region in Finland, and lots of manufacturing companies there. So it also has this regional roots, so to say, even if it's totally like through Wärtsilä and through other parties working on a global scheme. And of course, I'm also bringing this up because VTT is the research partner in this one. But I mean, this ecosystem actually, while it's not officially in an instrument connected to the European collaboration, but through the partners like Wärtsilä, that is extremely active in the European research and innovation, contributing a lot and of course receiving a lot of funding and so on. So it's connected to all the innovations that have been developed and will be developed in the European arena. Also, through the other partners like VTT, we are very much connected and active in the partnerships, in particular from Made in Europe, but also in the other ones. So the solutions that are there, they are either connected to Europe, so that what has been developed in Europe, for example, the IDS and GaiaX solutions are very much used here. On the other hand, this ecosystem brings a lot of reality and showcases and bring them back to the European collaboration. So yes, that's my final slide. So even if it's formally not connected, it's actually very much connected and accelerating this twin transition that we all want to do. And this is actually not so difficult because it's going through the people that are active in both arenas. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you, Rika. Thank you so much. Rika, I think part of what I'm hearing from what you say interesting, this collaboration. You know, you talk about companies coming together. We know from Nicholas early on that if you're part of the RD&I, if you're a manufacturing company and you're in this ecosystem, you're more likely to export, you're more likely to innovate, you're more likely to have more products, you're more likely to make more money, if we put it this way. So that's a strong theme for you, this whole collaborative type ecosystem, in both examples that you gave us there. It's something you feel strongly about.
Sorry? How?
It's something you feel strongly about.
Well, yes,
it's
of
part
course.
of it.
Of course, I mean, especially in a small country like Finland, I mean, you always see that we can be good in something, but we can't be good in everything. And so you really need your partners around. And in Europe, and you, even if you are doing similar things, you learn from each other. So I mean, how can you be innovative if you do it alone? I don't think so.
If you want to go far, go with someone else.
Yeah.
Excellent. Lovely presentation. Yeah. Thank you. Just by way of explanation, I am not ignoring Wim. I'm not ignoring my friend here from Brainport. He's got the unenviable position of summing all of this up at the very end. So thank you for your bravery in volunteering to do that. I appreciate it. And we will include, obviously, in the conversation. Nicholas, bad news for you, my friend. People are buying machines from China. They're not really linking to startups. They're having difficulty figuring out how all of this ecosystem works. We know it's good news. Do you feel there's more we could do as a community, not just the Commission, but those of us that are between the layers? And what's your perspective and what you've heard from our industrial partners here?
Well, there is only so much we can do through projects. I mean, that I'm afraid is life. We could increase the budget a bit, but still there is no way we can reach all the SMEs that are in need of the manufacturing technology. So that's a fact of life. We will never achieve that. So the question is, how do you make it happen in other ways? And I don't have a complete answer to that. Obviously, I mentioned dissemination, exploitation, all those things that projects are supposed to do as part of their work. That would help if it is done better. But I don't have a complete solution. Somehow we need multipliers, and the framework program made in Europe is not going to provide that single-handedly. That's for sure. We can only provide the core technologies, provide some impetus, some inspiration. If we are clever about our communication, that's what we're trying to do with our report we want to write. But there are limitations. What you can do at the European level. And then on top of that, you have the regional initiatives. You have lots of other players that can act as multipliers.
Good, and I suppose that's the strength of Europe. It's a large playground, if you like, in terms of where we are. And I think Blanca reflected that in her piece where she spoke about the need for an initial impetus, but I don't think anybody expects the Commission to pay for it all the way up to TRL level 9, I guess, Blanca.
And actually, when you were saying that, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's not a matter of having projects, it's maybe to have a voice. It's, it's not all about let's build more projects so we can give you resources, which is also important, and once we receive it, we are so proud of it. But it's also maybe to have networking, connections, because as a startup, many times the main issue is how we do raise the voice. We are here. This is our technology. This is what we can do. So maybe in some point another company will say, "Oh, I like what you are doing, and I want to invest in you." And here the main issue is the money for sure, but maybe also the connection, the networking, the voice.
I agree, and I think in terms, and I do appreciate your point, Nicholas, in terms of there's only so much, but you live in that space between doing nothing and doing something, and what's the something we want to encourage our companies to do. Wim, if I can jump to you, I had the pleasure of having a meal with you last night, and one of the things that you mentioned was this technology focus. I'm conscious we've got a lot of 3D printing on the stage now, but obviously every technology, AI and so on. Give me your perspective on that type of focus and where you think the Commission and others should be, where's the gap here in terms of taking this journey?
I'm not sure if there's really a gap, but I think it's important to continuously underline the fact that advanced manufacturing and additive are enabling technologies. We enable something else to happen. And I think everybody here today fully embraces the mission-oriented innovation. I mean, this is new in the policy arena. I totally agree that also in my own region, we used to be very much a tech push region. I think we can say it out loud today. We couldn't 10 years ago, but today we can because we are no longer that. We really dedicate our investments to be able to contribute to those challenges, to active and healthy aging, to sustainability, circularity. But I think we should never forget that the basis for that is really a continuous favorable investment arena which is focused on technologies, and then to allow us to contribute to the other challenges which are more on the forefront from a policy point of view.
And for within your own Brainport, for those of you who haven't been to Eindhoven, it's extraordinary. I was lucky enough that Sam Helmer here from TNO invited a number of Irish companies there last year, and it's fantastic to see the collaboration and again a technical focus on this. Bart, I can't let you go. You're buying machines in China. I have to say, fair play to you. You've got machine building capability right there in Brainport, for example, building some of the best technologies on the planet. Are you going to set up in China? Should you have a footprint there? Should you, where's your thought? And what more can we do? I don't want that woolly sort of, we should get together and all be friends. Like, the reality is that the Chinese are building really good machines at a low cost that have the capability you're looking for, and you as an individual, and I love the mechanism you have, which is an SME startup within the confines of a fantastic company like Philips. Be straight here. What's not happening in this region that you're seeing elsewhere?
I'll be very straight. First of all, only 10% of the machines we have ever bought are Chinese. 90% is European or American, but they are now out competing. And what needs to happen is actually copy-paste from what they do. I'll give you the example of that one machine now that has spurred or spawned a whole family of them. That is actually coming from a drone development company that suddenly understood that their drone technology is a massive innovation for 3D printer technology. Has to do with leveling and etc. In China, they made that happen in under a year. That drone company could indeed, with a lot of government funding, I assume, and the network coming together. It's learning from that. As I mentioned when I spoke, I do believe we have the technology.
Are we too regulated?
And some people have already said, partially reflect upon ourselves. We're not spending enough time ourselves going out and about, and that's why we're very happy to have people like Wim to do connect us, but we ourselves could do more. Hopefully others can do more. And then yes, it's very difficult. It's very difficult in Europe to step over certain thresholds to share.
But does that not protect your company in the long run? I mean, parts of these regulations are there to protect the environment. We want to go on a green transition. We want to give global leadership in this space. Is that not an important part of that whole ecosystem? You need standards, you need regulation, you need to adhere to this.
Yeah, I understand, but it was in another session I heard someone say, I didn't know this figure until today, that we were a few years back almost on par in our GBP with the American, but now we're 2/3.
Yes.
The proof is always in the eating of the pudding. I'm in business, the numbers never lie. So the numbers never lie. We for sure can do better. No matter what, regulation protects, but if we protect it and shield it so that it shrivels under this protected shield, what's the point?
And Estella, in your presentation, you spoke about regulation coming in and not always having the alternative there. Could you speak a little bit more on this? Is this a lot or just a small piece?
No, there are a lot of regulations, very good ideas, but not go at the same velocity,
Yes.
that the companies. And big companies perhaps can invest, but a small company no, and it's a chaos. And it's not normally, or it's not good for Europe, the certain regulation, and close the little company, because go out the Europe, the big companies, to share the same result. And it's a problem because the Mediterranean is the same Mediterranean for all.
Correct. Okay,
Oh.
that's lovely. We're getting a sense here. You can step in any time if you wish, but I do feel myself personally, I shouldn't give a personal opinion, that there's a reason for a lot of this and that there's an aspiration that we're hearing all through this. But it's fantastic to have our industrial partners maybe put a check. As you said, numbers don't lie. And Blanca, you want to get in there, sorry?
Yeah, because actually what we were saying, and I'm going to talk about additive manufacturing, which is what I know, but for example, the lack of regulation is what is stopping to use it as industrial technology in some sectors, like, for example, naval, maritime.
Yes, maritime.
You know that maritime is a really regulated sector, and because they don't have the regulations to use additive manufacturing just for one technology, they don't want to hear about it.
Yes.
So that's a problem, because the problem with companies is when we have a lot of R&D and it doesn't come into the actual industry. Why in this case? Because of the lack of regulation, the lack of ISOs, the lack of how we use it. And this is for maritime. This is a really big part, but it happens in others.
Thank you, Blanca. I'm going to let you in, but I'm reminded that in the 1900s, if you had a motorized vehicle in the UK, you had to have a person walking in front of it with a flag. All right, that's where we are a little bit with some of these technologies. Can I open to the floor? Would somebody like to ask a question, or does someone have a comment? And I do want to leave Wim some time here, so it will be quick. Anybody want to make a comment? Good. Zelko Palin, are you going to speak? Are you going to ask something? There you go. Please.
I can always do a comment. Hello, my name is Zelko Pazin. I'm the director of EFRA. I was, Blanca, what I found interesting is what you said about the location of your company, and that young people want to do hikes in nature. And then this made me think of your comment, Bart, that the US GDP is so much higher than ours. So yeah, just to bring in the softer things, isn't it more about work-life balance now, that people want clean air, being in nature? Is there something we can discuss and consider now about this, and that whereas in the past was only productivity, GDP, and all these hard facts, I see it with young people, you know, I cannot live without a car, you know, I have a lot of friends. For them, having a car would be a nightmare, to look for a parking, to go to the technical inspection. So I see a lot of changes happening in society, which I think is good, and I wonder, what does it mean for manufacturing? You know, so far we wanted to produce, export, make money. Is this in the long run the business model of Europe?
Thank you very much, my friend. Always adding to it. I should say, this is an interesting one. If you look at the, Keynes, for example, the economic model, it was very much around Ford, where you would look at the conveyor belt, and the human was sat at one position and did one job. And actually, Karl Marx, when he was looking at his philosophy, had said the depth of a job, and actually reflected a lot more of what Zelko was saying there, Industry 5.0 values. And little known fact, Karl Marx was the nephew of Philips, the originator of the Philips organization. So that's a nice circularity. I do circularity really well. I hope you've enjoyed our little show. I'm giving Wim the unenviable task of talking to us all and trying to pull all of this together for us. And you'll see on your seats there, Vanguard have given us some more information on additive, but you can walk us through this. And after this, there are cocktails through that door, I'm reliably informed. So, all yours, sir. Thank you.
Oh, I need the clicker.
Sorry, this slide.
Yeah, I was asked to do closing words, and closing words sounds very, very heavy, while I actually think this has been kind of a feast this session, and maybe even today, but especially this session, because we've seen incredible examples on how advanced manufacturing and additive manufacturing in particular can contribute to the bigger goal of sustainability, which was actually the topic of this session. We've seen how the people that really do the work, which is companies and knowledge institutes, can actually deliver, but there's also been a big ask. And to close this, I'm actually trying to refer to some Brainport realities. Brainport is the region for which I work in the southeast of the Netherlands. But the reality which I think is highly relevant and maybe even an inspiration for the whole of EU today and especially tomorrow. Some of you, Joan, Sam, you know this picture. This picture is, you could say this picture combines a value chain and a supply chain in one model. And not long ago, a company like Philips may have done all the activities you see on the middle row themselves, from the basic research up to the sales and service. But today, this is really not at all the model anymore. It has changed, and in the way that I'll explain to you now. So basically, we went from a time where components production was outsourced to a situation today where this is really being co-developed in an open innovation spirit. All the partners in the chain are fully acknowledged as full partners. And at the start, the constant feeding of the ecosystem with new knowledge, as VTT, other RTOs here in the room, do constantly, are really crucial. Today we have a few companies in our region which actually say what we are doing today is based on research from 30 years ago. That's how long it sometimes takes to arrive at the position of a scale-up, because that's the company I'm talking about. So this proves to me there's a constant need for investment in research, but also in innovation, in demonstration facilities, in industrial deployment. So the whole line needs public funding, because we really, however successful some of the companies in the core may be, there is a funding gap which can be filled by public money. And this is actually a big part of the agenda which public-private partnerships such and Made in Europe and EFRA, as the representative of the private sector, are doing in close collaboration with the EC. It's not only about money. We've seen today that it's also about standardization, about skills, and about regulation. Not to mention the beautiful story I think Bart was telling on the circulation of materials. If you really want to be circular, that the regulation today is kind of hindering. Today we should actually also be adding a digital layer on top of this picture. In the Netherlands we have the Smart Connected Suppliers network, which is basically a data space for manufacturing. And my colleague Sam, maybe you can ask the question later, Andrew, actually is very much promoting the idea that this such data space for manufacturing is also the necessary base if we really want to go into a circular model to make the whole value chain circular. And that is how we can really create the impact that we are striving to. Today, ASML is a company based in our region. They're active in the semiconductor industry. Most of you know them by now, I think. They are really putting on the agenda the circularity aspect. In the contracts they have with their suppliers, circularity, sustainability, later on circularity, is becoming an obligation. You cannot imagine the push, of course, that such a requirement has on the whole value chain. And this value chain stretches out across borders, of course. We might be very happy, all of us, if the map of Europe would be covering nicely this picture, but it doesn't have to be. As long as on the control points, as again a recent study from TNO was pointing out nicely, as long as we have the control points in the value chain in Europe, we should be quite okay with that, because we don't want to close ourselves up. We are in an environment of open strategic economy. If you then go to the regional level, which is the level on which I am working, you see that even when we're talking in my region about global companies such as ASML and Philips, who have global value chains, the large majority of their suppliers is situated within a radius of 40 kilometers around the city of Eindhoven, which includes parts of Belgium and Germany, to be clear. And such geographical concentration is really, really beautiful. But even then, of course, we cannot be globally dominating. We need the competences of other parties elsewhere in Europe and also in the world. And that is actually exactly what the Vanguard initiative, which I'm also representing today, and today I'm also speaking on behalf of Sesimo, for example, we're a group promoting additive manufacturing. That is exactly what the Vanguard initiative is doing. This is a group of 38 regions today and open to others who are working on industrial innovation. It's a group of policymakers who want to create a positive environment for companies and knowledge institutes, thematically focused, so they can do the job. And we connect, we allow, and we facilitate the connections between the businesses and the knowledge institutes to together make this value chain across Europe. And as strong regions, we are able to really reach out to all the corners of Europe to make the open strategic autonomy of Europe, in fact, at least that's what we hope. With these nice words, and this should all demonstrate that together we are contributing to the twin transition, I would like to close this session and hand over back to you, Andrew, for a few last questions and closing words.
I think we're out of time. Could I ask everybody to stand up? Just stand up. No, not you guys. You can sit down.
I want to stand up too.
Yeah, no. Now, when you give us a round of applause, you should know that this is the only standing ovation any group got all day. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Well done.